Good day everyone, maybe some more FGO. A surprise stream here as we've got an unexpected banner where Berserker Musashi is popped up on radar. She wasn't supposed to come back until next anniversary, somewhere around there. It's actually quite nice because for some reason she's one of the limited 5 stars that really rarely comes back, despite being as good as she is, and a popular character, of course. Very strange. But we have a little bonus banner here, so we're over here on my thankfully rescued extra account. So I figure let's give her a go and see if we can look out. As you can tell, I actually accidentally rolled once earlier because I wasn't paying attention. I thought I'd switched over to the friend point banner. Whoopsie daisy. Craft essences that are rated up are all of the previous summer craft essences, so that's a thing. I actually wasn't planning on rolling on this account until Ibuki comes back, but then this came along, and having an AoE Berserker covers more bases than AoE Saber. I will roll for Ibuki eventually on this account. Luckily she does get rated up fairly often, so all the rated up craft essences, and that one's the one we keep getting. Pretty sure there are multiple 3-star ones. Kiriyame. Wrong Berserker, I'm afraid. There's one of them. Spartacus on there. Goofy lad. Well, we're getting AoE Berserkers, which is not quite the ones we want. Lots of AoE today. It's alright, keep that coming. I'm not entirely certain this account even has room MP5, so I believe it's a bit nostalgic because some of these, because I believe this one was rated up during the Fair Summer event that I was playing for. Which was Summer 2, I think. Summer 3 was 7 Fest, right? Of course, the current summer, then JB is Summer Fest again. A new version looks pretty interesting. It was the one with the race that gave Rider Ishtar as the world thing. Ice Marines, that's a really good craft essence for quick. MLB, it gives you 60% starting MP instead of 50, and you got quick up, full attack. It's quite nice. Fortunately, this obviously isn't the quick account, and there's nothing unless another surprise banner comes up, but Summer Servants, like Maid Altar, is a bad hit when it comes to summer quicks that could possibly be rated up here, as far as I can remember. I'm pretty sure this one was as well. Maybe not though. The more I think about it, I would have copies of it on my main because for some reason I'll keep an MLB copy of old craft essences that I wrote on just for nostalgia's sake, and I might not have that one, so it may have been on one that I didn't roll. Who knows? Really not getting many servants. On's being devious as always. He just got a buff in JP again, randomly. Of course, now that I mentioned it, it's eluding me what the buff actually was. So that's a summer crowd essence. I definitely rolled on whatever banner it was that had it. Ah, I bet it was last summer. The camp. That one was. As well. Because I remember getting a lot of it. And that was the summer banner to this point that I've rolled the most on the arts account. Back Buddha. She is not rated up as far as I'm aware. So that was just a coincidence. That was from the Vegas one, I'm pretty sure. Which is where Son of Musashi was originally dropped. So, good sign maybe, fingers crossed. As for this one, that is probably from that Summer 2 event. Oh, whichever one the racing one was. Musashi coins. I think that's from the Fair Summer event. That's from Vegas. And lots of grotesques. So just because there's so many grotesques rated up, it's not actually having an effect on the amount of grotesques versus servants. This is just a coincidence. I feel like I rarely get archers, which is pretty consistent across all my accounts. Okay, that one definitely came from an event I rolled on because I remember getting a bunch of those. Unless they just kept dropping from the friend point, which isn't out of the question. Sometimes that happens. Almost exhausted our supply of tickets. What's a Boudica's? I guess she kind of looks like she's wearing a swimsuit in her initial ascensions anyway, so I guess it fits. That's our 5th copy of that one. Okie dokie, on to the Maltese. Now get to click less, get to be even lazier. Just a bit. What's this going to be? Answer. Ah. Thing.
Erin.
Who are they? Right, those two. The old double raid up that got spooked anyway. Never fails. Both Summer Camilla and Summer Musashi are actually quite useful. Well, they have the... They both provide some interesting niches. For example, Osakabe Hime is one of the few that can actually just targetable give everyone sure hit. Give an ally sure hit. Rumor. Those coup coins are going. Spaced and bird passes are really useful for fighting Fluffy in World Spell 6. I can attest to that because I went through there on 4 accounts now. Enkidu's even better. Enkidu does absurd damage to Fluffy. It's actually really surprising. It can catch you off guard, I guess. You haven't been using Enkidu much, at least, against divine enemies. Actually, don't remember that one. Maybe that's from. Would that be from the first summer event? I would say no. So it's just one that I've forgotten, probably. Next multi. We really are getting a lot of those 4 concierge crowd essences. It's all too familiar. Let's put Vicky Brown too. Alright. Please be a Berserk. Ah, Camilla maybe. Okie dokie. Does this account have regular Camilla? I don't recall. I know I have on Buster and Main. I feel like one of the answer quick account has it as well. Quick had her, because she was my only assassin until I got Karma. Single target at least.
あら、奇遇ね。普段と雰囲気が違う。そうかしら。どうあれ、私が危険な女なのは変わらないと思う。せいぜい気をつけなさいね、マスター。
Come on, little far, you can make it. Ah, say. I really do wish I could get some SA on my quick again, but the banners that she gets rated up on are just... I just can't roll for them. Split rate up, 5-star, that has no business being on the quick account. Just keeps happening. It's a shame. She does get a solo rate up 2 anniversaries from now, but unfortunately she's rated up with Tamashark. Well, like I said, this 5-star has no business being on Wii account. I suppose there would be some rare prisms for us came to worse, but it's at an awkward time banner wise anyway, because I believe it's right after Summer or Saber, Medusa. It'd be interesting to. I wish I would have thought of this before I started rolling, keeping track of how many craft instances weren't rated up that we've gotten, because at the moment I can't remember any, but there had to be at least one. Surely. Maybe not though. Unless they just completely swapped out the pool with the summer craft essences, which is possible. I feel like they've done something like that before. Well, they've done that with servants before. Like that big raid banner a couple of years, I think it was a couple of years ago. Where it was summer and AoE servants and nothing else. At least for goals. Seem like an awful lot of craft essences. May just be noticing it more though, because there aren't generic craft essences being slapped out there. The mythic Robin Hood. I just rarely get him for some bloody reason. I'm not entirely certain even my main account has gotten a single A-pen from him. That's how rare it is for me to roll him for some bloody reason. I've somehow not gotten a single copy of the Bradamante craft essence from the Vegas event. Sometimes you just have to say it aloud to reverse the jinx, I guess. Wrong account though, but that's alright. Come to think of it, that might have been my... Well, it couldn't have been my first two copies of him, but I don't think I have him in I don't think I have him MP5'd on this account, so... I suppose I'll see I'm doing inventory later. It's starting to look pretty dire for getting any copies of Musashi, unfortunately. Huh. There are more crowd instances there that I had forgotten, and I realized. Oh, there's a Kabihime. I feel like it's rare when it rolls and there's not a gold flash or a rainbow flash, or it's sparking and turning gold.
皆様お騒がせします。あーちゃんのおさかべ姫です。頑張って水着になりました。どうでしょうか。似合ってますか？似合ってますよね。必死に選んだので、できれば似合っていると一言いただけると自信が持てます。
Yeah, I feel like it's rare where you just have a regular summon and then it's just gold to begin with. I feel like that doesn't happen all that often, strangely enough. Please be Berserker. Okay, please be Musashi. Okay, there we go. Glad they've at least gotten one copy of her. Secured. Please don't be a spook. He's a spook bugger. We take that spook though. Although we are about to get welfare single target buster rider, so and she's really good, but she is an Aussie, so
Musashi Miyamoto ここに召喚。しかしついに私も水着デビューか。実は前から興味あったんで大ラッキーなのです。ひと夏の冒険よろしくねマスター。我が名は
give Aussie just one bloody line. Early FGR. There's a funny multi. 2 5 stars in one. Those don't happen very often. If you were curious. Serenity. I wonder if they'll give her any more buffs. It is awkward that they had been buffing her, and then they come out with Lacusta, who's basically what she should have been. So at this point it would be just making her... I'm not sure what they could do with her now, since Lacusta's already beating her with a niche. Rather than niche, they seem to be working her towards with the buffs that she should have had to begin with, kind of like how David should have had anti-giant damage to begin with. That one though, I'm sort of two minds about it, because when he came out, because I'm pretty sure, so he came out with Okeanos. I don't think there were any enemies that had the trait of giant at that point, so it would have been a useless bonus damage for him, I suppose. However, they introduced the Spriggans, which are giants, in America, which was, well, I guess London was in between, but still, they had to have been working on it at that point, surely. Alright, last two multis. Fingers crossed for some nonsense luck. Protoku. I should probably get to work on... It's funny, most accounts have issues with caster mats just because of there's so many support casters you have to raise, let alone if you get some DPS casters as well. And then there are certain extra class servants that also take caster mats, and it quickly becomes quite unwieldy. But with the quick account, because they can't be asked to give quick account any bloody supports besides Scotty, and now Summer Scotty next year, but she's not even a caster, she's a ruler. But technically she will take caster mats, just not many of them, because of the way rulers work, mat wise. Yeah, because Quick only has Scotty for a support caster. You sort of don't have an issue with caster mats. So instead, the quick account's actually hurting really bad for Lancer mats, because see, we've got Valkyrie, we've got Bovati, we've got Ku, got Proto Ku, got Medusa Lily. Plus I raised Canis on that account because I didn't think I would get her on any of the other accounts, and since she was one of my favourites, despite her being Buster, I made an exception and went ahead and raised her. Only to then get a nice an MP bloody 8, 7 or 8 on my Buster account, which is the account that she belongs on in the first place, so isn't that fun? Rider mats are also a bit of a thing on the quick account. Just a bit. Yeah, seeing Proto Ku came to mind because I got to thinking I actually need to praise his skills on the quick account, because I don't think I've worked on, although he is leveled on there. Oh, another nice Marines. It's 2 of those. So I'm going to get an MLB copy. However, getting it all since it's already 50% starting gauge is decent enough, because it's not like this account exactly has those growing on trees. Now we have 3 more rolls. Just see if we can sack something here. What craft essence is this going to be? Okie dokie. Well, that looks like it'll do it. I'll squeeze out some more rolls here. Actually, okay. Or, huh? That's nonsense. Why is this banner only get 1 bloody day? Or I haven't done mine. Oops. Just one I had. I was going to say I was going to grind out some more quartz and do a handful more rolls if I could, but now I'm not certain I'll have enough time, since it's ending next reset. This one, we didn't get that one. That Bradamante Bunny craft essence from the Vegas event. That's the one I was mentioning earlier. Or trying to, I think I got distracted. Huh. Okay, all CEs are from summer events. Okay. Guaranteed pickup servant has been awarded with this pickup. Also, the new summer event. Or, Huh. Does that mean that... Huh. So I'm guessing she's the next one. Which in case... I suppose I don't think I'll stream this because I don't have many roles on my main account. But I am picking up... I am planning on... I have 2 Squirtoria banners already marked down to roll for my main account, so I might as well try to see if I can't look sack a copy of it right now. It's not like I have anything else to... Bugger all! Doesn't look like I have anything else to roll for this year. And then during this event, I'll throw like 1 multi on the quick account on Dot. I'm about to compose a strongly worded letter and send it via pigeon across the pond to Nippon, to Lasagna's offices. I suppose I could just do this. Yeah, okay. So today is here, and then it's going to swap that for her. Seems a bit awkward if you ask me. Oh, and wait. Okay, so it should be the last day, and she's with... poor Elena. They even buffed her and she's still... Goodbye. Now, this is nonsense. This actually annoys me. Because when she was rated up, she had Summer Mordred with her, so Summer Mordred should be on this banner. But she isn't. In fact, I don't think she's on any of them. Why? That's nonsense. Why is she being left out? It's almost as frustrating as the fact Ruler Martha isn't rated up on the rerun of the Christmas event that where Veritra came out, because Ruler Martha was rated up with her. But now, for some bloody reason, on the rerun, they switched it out from Ruler Martha to regular Martha. It's infuriating. Why would you do such a thing? Let's see. We didn't get this one. Or this one. Or Honey Lake. We got all the other ones. This would have been nice to get, but oh well, this account's going to be rolling on the Jolter banner next year, and Honey Lake's rated up with her, so he is open. Forget what that even does. This one doesn't do anything particularly special either, I just remember it because I rolled on that banner. I think I rolled on that banner. Yeah, I rolled for this banner because of Lambda. I ended up getting 1 Bunny Toria and 3 copies of Lambda. Wait, Was it 3 or just 2? Maybe in 2. I'm second guessing myself. Oh well, sorry, this will be a few days from now. No worries. Yes, indeed, Sam and Musashi. Where are we here? Huh, a Valkyrie on this account. There'll be a Valkyrie on every account. Bloody Aussie spook. Where is she? She's down here. Where the Berserkers are. That would make sense. I don't remember getting you on this account. There she is. Singular copy of her. Sama Musashi is one of the big arts loopers, the universal arts loopers go with Astarte, Sama Kiara, and I suppose regular Kiara works. Sama Koma, and then eventually Sama Ibuki, and then I guess the most recent one is Sama Melt, or Sama Melusine rather. At Lambda only, mind. I'm not going to have enough seashells for this. I can already tell. It's going to make me very sad. But I do think I have fires for her at least. Probably. Oh yeah, right there. Let's roll 2. Well, it's unfortunately, if you want Sama Musashi, she's only available today. Next reset, she swaps over to I think Bunny Toria, if I remember correctly, and then Sama BB's after that, and then Maid Halter, and then Tamashak, and then Artori Archer. Sama Okitan Saber. She's really bloody good. In fact, I would quite like to get her as well. I mean, Okita is one of my absolute favorites. She's up there. Oh, she's definitely meta. She's kind of like, if you get a like MP 2 or 3 or so, she could like loop against bloody archers like double Scotty. She's really bloody good. Most people just overly poo-poo on Quick, and to be fair, the developers do as well, but she's very good. Definitely won't regret getting her if you do. I mean, so as someone who has a Quick account where I just use nothing but Quick is it's the weakest of the 3, but it's still perfectly fine. Really, it's quite overblown. Now there is annoyances about it. It is annoying that Scotty is our main support, and she is just not nearly the quality of Castor Toria or Merlin or Tomovich is a little bit more comparable, but the cooldown reduction and the crit bombs and the stuff does make a difference, unfortunately, when it comes to Scotty, because all she essentially provides is a quick up and a little bit of defense down on the enemy. And that's only for one wave. Rengoku. Yeah, her sword, her Zanpakuto, her spirit, basically. Huh. A lot of silver berserker foes, as it turns out. They actually come out with a costume for regular Okitan where she switches, where it's Rengoku in charge of the body, which is pretty funny. She loses her chest, so you can tell them apart. I forget when that comes around. I want to say sometime next year. I wouldn't swear to that. Good old Scotty. She was... Well, yeah, she was the first one I pulled for on the Quick account, for obvious reasons. I mean, it was during the download campaign that had a Start Dash campaign, where Scotty was rated up again, which is when I started the Quick and Arts alt accounts. And then I just re-rolled the Quick account until I maxed Scotty on the day one amount of rolls we had available. So she's okay. So with Quick, it's definitely the weakest type support-wise, because Scotty is just, like I said, she's not as good a support as what Arts and Buster have available to them. Yeah, that sounds about right. However, a lot of the Quick units just have really great self-sufficient kits in and of themselves. Like, Kukulane's a Quick unit, for goodness sake. You've got Lakshmi Bai, you've got just all sorts of things. Karma, Saber Stolfo, Saber Medusa is coming eventually. You know, you've got just all sorts of things. So that actually helps a lot. However, it is, that being said, it is really annoying when they come out with like an Arts servant and then a Quick servant and they have identical kits, except the Quick ones is gimped in some way. That is sketchy. That actually happened recently, but I can't remember. I can't remember which servant it was, but it was one that was pretty much identical to an Arts version of a servant. But they like gimped them on skill cooldowns or something like that. I remember getting annoyed about that. Life of me, I can't remember which servant it was. Oh, we had a... Okay, we have enough silver berserker. Statues at least. Ooh, I hope that doesn't end up being painful. Saber Okitan? I believe so, yes. Yeah, I'll double check for you. Yes. Summer Okitan removes defensive buffs before damage. That's important. She does it before damage. Now, Muramasa gives himself Pierce Invuln. Of course, it's only one. I think it's only one turn. Pretty sure it's only one turn. Oh. So, depending on the way the enemy's invulns or evades are set up, that may be only useful for once or be enough. Also, one thing to keep in mind with quick servants, and I think this is part of the reason the developers are so gun shy when it comes to giving good supports and stuff for quick, and that is quick EMPs actually have the highest damage. If you take a quick servant and an arts or a buster servant, and let's say they have identical stats and equivalent buffs on themselves, the quick servant will do the most damage, followed by the buster and then by the arts, because they just have higher scaling. Also, card buffs get the most bang for the buck on quick, because when it comes to buster buffs, you just get more damage. That's pretty much it, just more damage. With arts buffs, you get more damage and MP gain, and with quick buffs, you get more damage, more MP gain, and more star gen. That being said, it's still inexcusable that they haven't given us a solid 1 to 3 star quick support at the very least. The saddest thing about it is Juhu, who's coming, if they don't drop her early, which there's no reason they shouldn't, but they probably won't, we should get her next anniversary. New 3-star alter ego, not sure if you're aware of her. Her kit is really good. She gives AoE, I think it's 30% card up. In her case, it's arts. She gives crit up, star bomb, all kinds of great stuff. She would have been perfect for a 3-star quick support, and something direly, desperately needed. She also gives MP gain up, which is also something, because one thing that hurts quick when it comes to looping, and because people are obsessed with looping, and with quick servants, it's not always the easiest thing to do, and it's often really close to like razor thin margin, just a little bit more MP gain, or like maybe just a little bit more card buff or something, and they could have looped. But it often ends up just shy. But having her being able to give MP gain up, because Scotty doesn't give that. Scotty doesn't, Summer Scotty doesn't. Neither of them give MP gain up. That could really make up the difference. Plus it makes sense because Juhu is obsessed with Yume Rin, and Yume Rin has a summer version, which is quick. But they made her arts, which is the only type that there isn't a version of Yume Rin, and it doesn't make any bloody sense. But on the other hand, what that did make her is basically a budget Castor Otoria, sort of, to where if you don't have Castor Otoria yourself, you can use your Jufu and then a friend support Castor Otoria, and then an arts looper, and you can farm with that as if you had your own Castor Otoria. Now obviously it won't play out the same way in like challenge quests and difficult boss fights, but at the very least, you can farm just fine, because she effectively will fill the slot for you, which is a good thing, but Quick is still left out to dry.
ちょっと今新しい武器作ってる最中でごめんね。着替えるのは次のお楽しみってことで。
Okay, we have enough. Oh dear. Leveling her skills is going to make me cry.
Yo.
Or, also, I don't know if you're aware of this, I'm not sure how aware you are of stuff that's coming in the future from JP. Well, you did know Summer Okitan's coming, so I suppose you know a little bit at the very least. But they did, next anniversary is actually, they did something really nice. They introduced rainbow chains, and they improved both the starting card bonus for Quick and the 3-of-a-kind bonus for Quick. So right now, if you lead off with Quick, what it does is it slightly boosts the crit star generation for the cards in your chain. And if you triple Quick, it will automatically give you a bonus 10 crit stars for the next turn. Well, what they did instead is they maintained the crit star gen bonus for the other cards. But what they also did is, if you lead with a Quick card, every card in your chain has a 20% extra chance to crit. So, say you had a 60, 80, 10. Well, now you have an 80, 100, 30% chance, respectively, which is really nice. And the rainbow chains is, if you use a card of each type, then all 3 starting card bonuses trigger, which is outstanding, especially in solos. So basically, you lead off with whatever, and you'll get the arts bonus. You'll get the MP gen bonus. You'll get the extra 20% crit chance from a Quick lead, and you'll get the bonus damage, the bonus percentage damage from the Buster lead as well. So it's the best change they've done in a very long time. Sadly, they followed it up the next anniversary with doing absolutely nothing. But for a moment, they were really on their game. So, especially after that, Quick is actually in quite good shape. Especially because so for like quick looping, like Summer Okitan is really good at it. You have Edmond Dantes, he's still the old classic, and he's still quite good at it, especially with Summer Scotty added. And now there's an AoE Quick Berserker coming next year, Senorikyu, and she's pretty good as well. And then of course you have Karen, which was this year's Valentine's servant, and she's an AoE Quick Ruler, and she's my pick for the universal Quick Looper, basically farmer. Now, of course, where it goes a little bit awry is in farming Lost Belt 6. Yeah, Karen AoE Ruler. Where it goes a little awry is farming Lost Belt 6, because there are like 3 or 4 nodes that have Avengers in there, and so that makes things awkward. However, next anniversary she gets an MP buff, and then she just becomes just a bit silly. because she starts doing a whole even load of damage there. And even pre-buff, she's been looping really well so far for me against everything that's not an Avenger. So basically, the summary is, yeah, it's annoying that Quick doesn't have just more varied supports. That is definitely something we need. But it's certainly nowhere near the realm of bad or unusable or something. Unfortunately, there are a lot of see, I've said all this before, so I'm really repeating myself over stuff I've said in previous streams. So I'm trying to both recall how I worded things, and also she gets a costume at some point. Come to think of it. Now I'm distracted.
輪にしては露出度高め？まあせっかくの機会なんだし、これくらい派手でもいいかなって。そうだ、仙女風水着ということで一つ。
Well, I gotta send her one last time for the skills, but yeah. Well, okay then. Let's see. These aren't bad mats. They're not super heavily used. Keep that coming, why don't you? Okay, what was I on there? Oh, so a lot of, unfortunately, and I unfortunately suffered through this really bad when I first started playing. There's a whole lot of really bad information about this game out there from, unfortunately, really popular sources, because there are a lot of traps people get into where someone will have a misunderstanding about something, and then they'll tell other people, and they'll just spread it, and they'll spread it. Well, okay, well, one of the big examples is how tier lists is one thing. People look at tier lists, and Made from Game Press is an infamous one, because, see, the thing about Game Press is they play a bunch of different games, which means they don't actually put all that much time into an individual game, so they don't really learn it very intimately or intricately. But yet they'll throw out these nonsense tier lists or like reviews of servants, and it's purely based on the way there's a lot of okay, and they'll put out misinformation, and then people will not realize it's misinformation. They'll be like, "Oh, this is Game Press; they're reputable, right?" And then they'll just take it as gospel. Like, for example, a lot of people. This has actually gotten better nowadays, this specific one, but when I first started playing, people swore up and down, like, as soon as you get Uriel, raise her because she's going to, she's going to carry you through all sorts of boss fights. Uriel, she's vitally important. Purely because people got hard stuck in Camelot, specifically the Gawain fights. And she is really good against that fight because he has just pretty much nil resistance against her charms. So she can basically just charm lock him and just laugh herself to sleep, rolling him over. However, that's basically the most relevant she's ever been, and past that point she's practically useless. Because for one, she needs a saber boss that's male, which isn't as common as you would think, and most importantly, they need to be vulnerable to being charmed or stunned. And the developers specifically start designing male sabers very often to be resistant to charm or stun and stuff, and it makes her really worthless. Because frankly, if she can't charm lock somebody, Robin Hood is just better. As long as they can be poisoned, and we have command codes that will help you with that, so you don't even have to worry about his skill missing, which it can sometimes do. He can fail to poison an enemy with his skill. The command code has a much higher proc chance. Robin is going to just laughably outdamage her, and he can do it against anyone. They don't have to be a male saber. So that's a big example. Another one is the infamous coup killer, Baldy. I don't think I have him because I'd show you. No Arts MP Spear Monk. People just gassed him up really heavy because of. Now this is partially on just the average person. It's partially their own fault for not paying attention to what's happening in the videos. So when he came out, basically what happened is all these YouTubers, they come up with these videos, and they do this with every new servant. So this is some of it. What they'll do is yeah, people are strange. Incidentally, Scotty is actually, even with a scuffed MP, is actually pretty decent as a solo, because she'll basically make a bunch of stars and she'll crit and hit really hard because of her 100% quick crit buff, and it's a bit yeah, it's a bit cheesy. I quite like soloing the servants when they're able to. It's quite a fun. It does a lot of things. For one, it really lets you see the value the servant just has inherently in their own kit. It's a really great way of seeing that, and it can be a decent challenge. Although some fights it just makes easier, because a lot of times the servant's power is held back by having other servants' cards taking up space instead of just spamming theirs. Like Heracles, for example. Heracles, you just want him out there by himself with his Bondcraft essence, of course, and just cracking heads. Okay, but yeah, back on the Baldy thing. Inshuin. There were some YouTube videos, and this happens every time a new servant comes out, where the big time FGR YouTubers, they'll race out and they'll be like, let's show off this new servant, so let's just put like bloody every super support that we got and just buff them all the hell in back, and just watch the big numbers and the flashy lights. Unfortunately, what happens is people see this and they're like, oh wow, look how amazing this servant is. Like, he's better than Kukulane, look at him. It's like, no, he's doing this because he's buffed. They buffed the bejesus out of him. Ku's so amazing because he works well in a team and he's outstanding solo. He does a ludicrous amount of damage. He has a ludicrous amount of survivability on top of it. First and second. What was your second? You said your first was Scotty. What was your second one? But yeah, essentially, so people will see them just really popping off with all these super supports, like well setups and stuff. But then it doesn't click in their head that, oh, well, any servant's going to pop off like that if they have immense supports. Emiya's not terrible. Oh, Super Ryan. Super Ryan's a great soloer as well. The thing with him is he doesn't need a damaging MP because the way his kit works is his Buster crits are essentially MPs by themselves. That's the kind of silly thing about Buster crit setups, is they, even if they have a damaging MP, their Buster crits are going to hit as hard as a single target MP anyway, pretty much. Early game, that's why Buster was just absolute king. Because of the way health bars were, they were just overly bloated. I mean, by the time you get to, you know, towards the end, they're approaching 1 million and then breaking 1 million. And then, yeah, those big Buster crits really come in handy then. But then break bars became a thing, and then it's like, oh, well, now their health bars are about 150, 250. Okay, and it's like, well, now a lot of that damage is going to waste. But yeah, essentially, that's a big part of the misunderstandings that get thrown out there, is people see these YouTube videos of people just super pumping up a servant, and they get it in their head that, oh, that servant's just outstanding, incredible, and it's not clicking for them that, oh, it's just because they're buffed ludicrously. And any servant buffed to that extent would have a similar performance. And then it also extrapolates with, oh, looping. People get really obsessed with the looping and the Buster reloading and stuff. So if the servant can't do that quite as well, they'll act like it's the worst thing ever. Which is why Quick gets poo-pooed on a lot, because again, a lot of AoE Quick servants just can't quite loop all the way. Yeah, that's another one. That's another big one. They're like, oh yeah, look, we've got him MP5. They're 120. They have a super limit broken Black Grail. It's like, yeah, the average player can really duplicate that. I say as if I don't have an MLB Black Grail. If you were curious, when I rolled for Morgan, I just kept getting copies of Black Grail. They just kept coming. It was weird. So that's what I mentioned. That's what I'm referring to now. If you're interested in checking that out, that was an experience. Funny thing is, Super Scope isn't nearly as prevalent as it was thanks to A-Pens. I have my issues with the coin system, a lot of issues with it, but providing that 20% free starting charge and making every K-Scope into a Super Scope helped a lot, because that's a bit silly. Now, okay, so you mentioned that, and the thing about that is, a lot of that comes down to the banners people roll on. Here's another thing, another big thing that you hear from people: never roll on story. Story is terrible, it's a waste, never roll on it. However, on the contrary, when you start a new account, it's actually good to do quite a bit of story rolls. You know, just to fill out your roster, and more importantly, there are no rate-up craft essences. The only craft essences in the pool is the general craft essences, most of which of the 5-star ones are really bloody good. You know, you've got Black Grail, you have Fragments of the Year 2030, you have Kaleidoscope, and you will have just an exponentially better chance of getting copies of those, rolling on story banner, then rolling on the summer banner where they're already craft instances rated up. So a lot of people fall into that trap, and then they're like, oh, I don't even have a case code for a Black Grail or Heaven's Feel or what have you. Black Grail on the Overrun banner. That's actually pretty appropriate considering the way he works with Black Grail. Because he, the way he doubles the MP damage bonus, basically. Because Black Grail already gives a really absurd amount. But yeah, essentially, if you're really hurting for some of the permanent 5-star craft essences, then you really just have to break down and roll for either story banner or one of the limited raid up banners that don't have raid up craft essences, because those do exist. Typically download campaigns are like that. Not always, but typically. So if there's something nice rated up that doesn't have craft essences rated up, that's a really good time to roll a decent amount. Or again, just roll for story, because frankly they're really good story locked servants as well. Like if you're in Lost Belt 6, you've got the 2 Fairy Knights that are story locked, which are both really good servants. And an important one is Asclepius, who is locked behind Lost Belt 4. He is really useful, and he provides some things that is really not easy to find, even in limited stuff. Debuff resistance, lots of healing, seals the enemy's MP gauge, increases the MP gen rate, AoE 20% battery, cleanses debuffs. Debuff cleanse is just so important, and people really overlook it. But it's so important to be able to cleanse your debuffs and remove buffs from the enemy. And then targetable gut status, debuff immunity, more HP healing. All of this is amazing stuff that it doesn't really grow on trees. You do not find it very often, even in limited servants. In fact, the team-wide guts, besides himself, is basically down to Erisviel, who is a welfare servant whose rerun is already long since passed, and she hasn't been added in JP and the evocation yet. Or, if you weren't aware, JP has finally started to do the right thing of permanently adding the welfares, making them permanently available for people. They're slowly working on that. Now, they haven't gotten to her yet, but she shouldn't be too long, probably. Let's see, who have they added? They added Ryder Kentucky, they've added Summer Hokusai, Summer Jolter, they've added Nobu, Summer Skaha. They've added, I think they've added the Liz's, so Brave Liz, Caster Liz, and Mecha Liz. There may be all of them to this point, because I think they've done 3 batches. At last. Okay. Oh, I'm not going to have, because I don't think I've done lottery on this account. Oh no! Oh no! So look, it's going to be brutal. Whatever, we'll just... I should have plenty of pure prisms, because... Well, I don't know, I think I used some for... Sonzong and Vritra. Bells, oh yeah. It's always really rough when they come out with a new mat initially, because of, well, honestly with Lost Belt 6 it's probably been the roughest for that particular thing with adding new mats, because they added so many new servants with Lost Belt 6, and they all take just so many of them. I will say though, that as bad as it feels for us, it was even worse for JP. It was much, much worse, because one thing, since we got the A-Pen stuff over a year early, they started doing this thing where they would swap out one of the lesser needed monthly mats from the monthly tickets. They would swap one of the lesser used materials out for a material that either wasn't in the game yet or was really important for A-Pens, including Lost Belt 6 bells and fairy scales and stuff. So we had lots of time to gather them from those, and they even added them into event shops way early for us. With JP, not only because... Oh yeah. Yeah, that would do it. They just take so bloody much. But yeah, with JP, so the Lost But 6 release was a bit weirder with JP in that because they were split into three different releases. And with JP, there was a lot more time in between releases than what we had. They kind of smushed it together for us. No. Once you've exhausted the stack of 100 of a mat, it's gone. Unfortunately. And pure prisms are pretty finite anyway, so I guess it makes sense. The pure prism thing is basically just to help new players out, and it is invaluable. It really is, because as someone who'd started accounts several times, I very much have felt the pain of starting a new account and it being so daunting. I have so many things I need to raise, so many skills I need to raise. I don't have any of the bloody mats, and none of them are in the event shop, and it really is a mess. But yeah, so we actually got the completed version of Lost But 6 way sooner comparatively than JP got it, which meant that we were able to farm the free quests. And they didn't get the mats in any event shops. The lottery event we just had, the Nero Fest rerun, that was the first opportunity JP had to get any of the mats that didn't just happen to drop for them as they played through the story. It was rough. Really rough. We're to the seashells. We're to the point where I'm going to have to make my first trip to the Pure Prism shop, speaking up. Okay, that's not too bad. I just need 21. I think it's 21. I will, however, need plenty of seashells. Okay, let's try to do some maths. So 15. So 35. I need 35, so I need 31. I really hope I have enough.
おや、何か
Oh, I don't know.
アイテム交換だね。
Seashells.
そういうのも嫌いじゃないし。
Part of me's a bit hesitant to actually buy the seashells from the Pure Prism shop because they're on the monthly ticket right now. Although it is the 25th, so we don't have many. Yeah, I'll go ahead and get them then. How many did I say I needed? I needed. I have 4. I think I needed 35. And now, let's go ahead and go over here and get this up to. Let's hope I happen to have other stuffs I need. Otherwise, I'll be the big sad. At the very least, our hero proofs, of course. Bugger all. Bugger all. Ah, so many. And Giant's Rings. The Giant Rings, though, let's see. I'm to Lost Belt 1, and you get those from Lost Belt 2. You get quite a few of them just playing through, so I'm not too worried about those. I will, however, purchase as many hero proofs as I can. I'll go ahead and do that at least. Luckily those are 1-to-1, so I'll be able to get them as I continue through the Lost Belts.
Yeah.
Oh, Castanero? She's really good. I feel like she's the one that people don't mention very often, but she's really strong. And, plus it's Umu. Who doesn't love Umu? Although bloody, the way Septon was written so bloody terribly, I would understand people that, if that was their first impression of her, really didn't like her very much. They really do need to go back in and rework the first few Lost Belts, or Singularities rather. That's something they definitely need to go and do. They need to tighten it up. They need to get rid of just most, if not all, of the bloody filler fights. There's way too much time wasting. Oh look, we're fighting the same cannon fodder enemies that we fought 30 more times. They drag so much, and is a little bit understandable starting out, because they just didn't have, because when the game first launched, Okeanos, no, they had Orleans. I think Septon might have been it on launch. I'm trying to remember, because Okeanos released a little ways in, and then there was a while yet still until London launched, and then in America, and then Camelot's when the game actually became a real game. But yeah, those first singularities, like, Fuyuki is fine. I don't think anything really needs to be done with it, really. No, I am not. I started really early in year 3, I believe, because I started right after the rerun of the is it Onigashima or is it Setsu? Okay, I started right after the Da Vinci Lottery and the Rider Kentucky / Golden Sumo event rerun. Basically, right before the rerun of getting Welfare Shiki. Which it was before the Lost Belts released, actually. Whew, that was a long time ago. The because the anniversary that year would have been 3rd anniversary, and that's when Da Vinci Lily was the anniversary servant. So yeah, no, I wasn't a day one, but I'm still fairly early days. The game was a whole lot different back then, and it was a whole lot different in day one than it even was when I started. I have seen plenty of content from day one stuff. Things were rough, real rough. Like, here's a big example. You know this lovely little Caldea gate here. You know these daily quests. These didn't exist day one. There weren't no daily quests. None. Didn't have that. You leveled up your servants with the random EXP drops you got from playing through the game. You know, all those bronze EXP and nonsense. That's how you leveled your servants. That's probably the first banner I rolled super heavily on, was that one, because of how Asata is so versatile. Here, I'll tell you what, I don't think I have anything else to do on this account right now. You kidding me? I could have saved some peer prisms. I like a roll. Oh, we just got a roll. How about that? Try memory. Okay. Just give me just a moment and I'll switch over to my main account. Or I will attempt to. I did click start, didn't I? I'm not sure why, but game capture. There it is. Maybe. Okie dokie. I believe that worked. For some reason, swapping it over wasn't showing up for me OBS to pick up. Was even going to show? Oh yeah, starting. And then I click on the wrong bloody thing. Naturally. So, yeah, for my case, Astarte was pretty much the first banner I rolled super heavily on this account. Oh. I thought I already did that. Got that to 10. Oopsie daisy. This was a mistake, getting this ape in. I really shouldn't have done that. This is showing her. Oh yeah. Yeah, she's it did not take her long at all to be born 10. Because I mean, we mentioned quick loopers. Well, she's one of them. She can quick loop. She can arts loop. She can reload with Buster. Whatever you want to do, she can do it. Also, she's not bad in boss fights and stuff. Like, she has one hit of Inbomb, which isn't the best, but it can block an MP. And she's an Avenger, so she has really good attack scaling. If you were curious, the attack rating on a servant is a lie. For the most part. Well, okay, for some of them, depending on the class. Because some classes they scale by 1.1x times. So they have 10% more attack than what it says on paper. And Avengers, Berserkers, Rulers, and Lancers, off the top of my head, there may be more, all have the 10% extra damage. Now in contrast, things like Casters and Assassins have a 0.9%, or 0.9 times rather. So they have 10% less attack than what it says they have. So if you were ever curious, and you ever had your Assassins out, and you were wondering why most of them seem to not do all that much damage even to Riders, that's why. They have less attack than it says they do. Which is partially why and you have to have an Assassin with just a really bloody good kit. Like X over here. Or Karma, or Jack. Like just, or Gramps, King Hassan. They just have outstanding kits that make up for that really gypped attack stat. Incidentally, notice all these buffs she got. When she came out, she was horrid. Or Omnibonton, Super Ron, and Castoria. What assassin is it that you have? Was it Kabihime? I swear she seems to spook people left and right. Do I have Osakabihime? I think I do. On this account. Yeah, with X here. When she came out, she was horrid. She was terrible. They buffed her entire kit. They buffed every skill and her MP. And she's really good now. She's actually really good. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't even realize that. Oh, Koyan. Well, that's one to have. If that's a good one. Of course, you have all the big sports. You have Castor, Tori, you have Scotty, and you have Koyan Skya. Do you have Marilyn? That's another one, by the way. That's another one where people are like, oh, Marilyn's, he's been power crept, he's useless now. Marilyn is still one of the absolute best supports in the bloody game. He is incredible. Put him in a challenge quest, a fight that has where you can't just, I don't know, they don't think. That's the issue. They're like, oh yeah, I'll just 3-turn everything. Well, let me tell you something, mate. There are a lot of fights out there that even the big super whales can't 3-turn. Just because the way the fight's designed. Challenge quests, big boss fights, all sorts of things. A lot of the exhibition quests and the lottery events and such that are really fun, challenging fights with the gimmicks and stuff. So you need to be able to stall. You need sustain, and Maryland's incredible at that. I mean, star gen, HP regen, MP regen. Then he's got a team-wide invuln that's on a 6-turn cooldown, so that's not too bad. Like, you can slap him, and basically, have you heard of the immortal comp, quote unquote? It's called immortal because pretty much the only thing that can kill it is just ludicrous amounts of buff removal, because that's the only thing that can get it. And it's Castor Artoria, and it's Morgan, and it's Maryland. Now, Morgan can actually be Himiko. He can be Castor Artoria, Maryland, and Himiko, or Morgan. Either work. But the idea is their noble phantasms synergize really well, because Morgan overcharges everyone else's MP. Yeah, so she overcharges. Then you use Maryland's. So now his is overcharged by 2 from Morgan's, but an extra 1 since her MP was used before his. So now he's generating even more stuff for you. And now Castor Artoria gets the full big 5 stack, 5 times overcharged. So she gives everybody 5 hits of super invuln, which takes a long time for the enemy to chew through, considering they only have 3 actions per turn. And by the time they chew through it, you probably got all your MPs up anyway because of all the MP regen that Maryland's given everybody. It's insane. Well, the good news is Morgan gets rated up quite a bit. In fact, there's a somehow not summer event, but it pretty much is a summer event. Early-ish next year, within the first quarter, called Sea Monster Crisis, where she gets rated up again. Her with Wu, actually. Wu's a good one. She's a good assassin. She's sort of a quick support, but also DPS. She's been buffed quite a bit too. She has a summer version coming out next year. I think it's next year. That's also actually really neat. She's the 4-star rated up with Sam Mascati as well, so quick account might have a chance to get her. She's Buster, of course, on her summer version, even though her regular version's quick. But c'est la vie. Yeah, luckily Morgan gets rated up quite a bit. It's almost like people keep throwing the rollets at the screen every time she came out or something, so they kept finding excuses to rate her up. I do need to work on getting Mordred's bond up. Incidentally, MP4, which is what she is here, is something I like to aim for on things that I really heavily roll for. Okay, so when it comes to a 5-star servant, MP2 is enough for them to get 2 A-pens. 2 A-pens. And most of the time, that's all you need. Most of the time, the 3rd one is worthless. Now, that's not quite the case here, even, but we'll worry about that when I'm able to get more copies of her. She's my favorite, so naturally I'll try to get everything I can on her. And then MP4 is enough to get 2 A-pens and take them to 120. Otherwise, if you want all 3 A-pens and want to 120 of them, you have to get 6 bloody copies of them. I'm going to use the free 5-star ticket. Well, since you're bringing that up now, I'm going to say Artoria. Artoria or Mordred. Artoria was my second 5-star spook, come to think of it. My first one was Nightingale. Ah, Ozzy. Ozzy, the spook that hit me earlier on my spare account. Spare account, extra account, whatever. I have my main account here. Then I have a Buster account, an Art account, a Quick account, and then that extra one. I've had several JP accounts, but I'm cursed on JP where something always happens that I end up losing them. It's very sad. Well, you didn't need him for Demeter. Because... Okay, here's another one. I was talking about misunderstandings people have about the game. Not saying that you're one of them, but just to emphasize, and it's good to try and point this stuff out. I just had a brain fog moment. What was I doing? Oh, right. You know what? So... Right here. This is the last right here. Ushi Wakamaru is one of the better servants in the game. She's outstanding, and she will just slice and dice Demeter left and right. Alternatively, our friendo, or Ricky boy, I could have sworn. Whatever, I'll work on that some other time. This is purely because I just didn't remember. Can do it as well. In fact, considering Art's supports are so bloody broken, he can probably do it even easier. The thing with Demeter is purely... The thing with her is purely just learning how the fight works. Namely, the buffs, the extra effects that she gives herself each turn, whether it's the damage cut and stuff, the defense up and the damage cut, which usually gets people in trouble because then it's like, oh no, I couldn't kill her, I didn't do any bloody damage, and now she's regening her HP, and now I'm all out of juice, and now, oh no. All that's on a cycle. It's not random. She does it in a very specific order. So you just... and it doesn't change. It doesn't change between break bars. So you can know, oh, this turn she's going to do this. So I need to, if I'm going to pop off, it needs to be this turn before she gets her damage cut and stuff. There are also... It's... let's see. Something like this beauty right here can absolutely laugh at that fight. Okay, Ushi Venja can laugh at most fights, to be honest, because she's actually one of them that you never hear talked about, and she's absolutely insane. She's insanely strong. She's an incredible solo servant. She can work in a team. She can do all sorts of things. Okay, generally, if a servant's good solo, they can do fine in a team, with few exceptions, like Heracles being better solo than in a team, purely because of the way Guts being procced, force ending the turn works. Because if you're in a team and he gets a Guts procced, well, they can keep attacking and they can pop more than one Guts. She's the one that Demeter is, or Ushi Venja. Well, the good news is she seems to be consistently getting rated up at least once a year, so you'll be able to have other cracks at it. And we do have pity now. But right here, she removes buffs. She does that before damage, by the way. It is so hilarious to just watch a boss buff themselves to Kingdom Come. And then you're like, oh, it would be a shame if something would happen to those. Also, but you don't need her. You need... Let's see. Because there are other... So I mentioned Ushi. Well... Where is he? Right here. Alexander. Look at this second skill. That's been... This after buff. It's important. You have to do his buff. So the charm probably won't work. But this is the important one. It removes buffs. So you can zap the buffs like that. And then buff removal. So buff removal is an issue in that fight. That tricks people a lot. Or is tricky for people rather to deal with. And yeah, that's a rough one because there's not many sources of buff removal resistance. This is one of them. Santa Gale. Because as long as this is at 10, she provides immunity to getting your buffs removed for 3 turns. Also gives it MP strength up for 3 turns, and it's a targetable guts. That's a really bloody good skill. Unfortunately, she's a welfare, and her event is past. I think she's one of the evocation servants, though. She might be permanent now. I wouldn't swear to that, though. But that's really handy. However, there is good news in that there's another servant. Because I'm pretty sure, let me see. No, that's a debuff immune. I thought she... Well, so she wasn't who I was thinking of this. Oh, you got her? That's good. She would have been amazingly useful for you for that fight. Yeah, Amakusa removes buffs, but... I definitely recommend at least raising that second skill on her. Because getting your buffs removed is such a massive pain when it happens. But yeah, you really could have done the fight with Ushi or Friendo with Alexander supports. And, I'll tell you a useful YouTube channel. But this is one you can trust. Honoko Green. I will attempt to... That's not what I wanted to do. There you go. There's a really good channel for learning about FGO. He does a lot of solo content. He's got some tier lists that They're long, yes, but they're really good to watch. He has one for 1 to 3 star units, and he has ones for 4 star units, and he did an update as well because of all the newer units that it came out as well. Lots of good stuff there, lots of solos, boss fights, and he does a lot of things where he will attempt to do a boss fight with 1 to 3 star servants, if at all possible, just to prove that as long as you know what you're doing, if you're paying attention to the boss fight, if you learn the mechanics, if you learn how to get the most out of each servant, that you don't need to have gotten stupid lucky or slammed your wallet against the screen to do a lot of these fights. And he even gimps himself even more, because the thing is, you're not going to not have gold craft essences, and a lot of the times he will try to restrict himself, if at all possible, to using 3 star and below craft essences, and those are truly terrible. Anyone for waifu? What do you mean, anyone for waifu? If you're meaning good servants, then tier list. No, his tier list is strictly based on gameplay. He's not the waifu side. That being said, for example, I mentioned Ushi, and Ushi's really popular with a lot of people in that regard. Well, and she's quite high up on. She's one of the best 3 stars in the game. In fact, she's the best single target 3 star rider. Even despite the fact that Friendo has the arts guard bonus. Oh yeah, here's my Jane. I actually don't remember how many copies of her I got. There were a lot of them though. Apparently not enough for... Actually, here, let me check. Months. 3 pins. Or... Yeah, laws are an issue. Luckily, they realized that coming out with the coin system and these 3 new skills for every servant literally doubled the number of crystal laws that everyone needed. So what they did now, starting in this upcoming summer event here in about a week, is they significantly increased the amount of crystal laws you get from each event from now on. So... Okay, okay, how much did you roll on them, incidentally? Because that's another thing. A lot of people will... Okay, to be quite blunt, a lot of people will whine about the rates in the game, and you will see things like, I rolled 100 quartz, or I rolled 120 quartz, and I didn't get the rate up 5 star. It's like, well, no shit, Sherlock. The rate up's 1%. And a lot of it is people not conceptualizing what 1% means. It's every roll you have a 1% chance of getting a 5-star servant. However, that does not mean that 5-star servant's going to be the rate up one. What the rate up means is when you do get a 5-star servant, it didn't. Now, originally it was 70%. Now it's been buffed about 1.5 to 2 years ago, I believe it was, to 80%. They gave it a 10% buff. So now if you get a 5-star, it has an 80% chance of being the rate up. So technically, every time you roll, it's not a 1% chance to get the rate up 5-star. It's a 0.8% chance. Now, the way the math works out on this is effectively with average luck, so completely average, not good luck, not bad luck, just completely average, you can expect to get the 5-star servant every 340 Saint Quartz you spend. So basically, when you see people like, oh, I spent, I rolled 180 Saint Quartz, 200 Saint Quartz, and didn't get them. It's like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, mate. If you rolled like 400 and didn't get them, then it's like, okay, you were a bit unlucky, and emphasis on a bit. Okay, here's an I'd say that my rolls earlier for Summer Musashi was pretty much average luck, because I had, like, I believe around 450 standing Saint Quartz, and I had 50 tickets. So effectively, that's around 600 Saint Quartz, and I ended up getting 2 5-stars. So that was slightly above average luck. Now, one of them was a spook, of course, which pulls that down a bit, but you get the idea. If anything, I got less 3-star, or 4 stars rather, than normal, because you should get triple the amount on average that you would a 5-star. That is not always the case, though. Who was it I rolled recently where I got copies of the 5-star, but I only got like 2 4-stars the entire time. Oh, it was recently. Who was it? Oh, it was on my aunt's account when I rolled for Caster Nero. I got 2 copies of her, and I only got 2 4-stars the entire time. And I think neither of which were the raid up too. They were both spooks. That's the real lie in this game, is the 4-star raid ups. It is horrid. Made even worse by the fact that they've completely gimped people that like 4-star servants when it came to the pity. Because pity is good for the people that they're like, oh, I really want this servant, so I save up 900 Saint Quartz, and boom, I can get them. Guaranteed. Because most of the time, you're not going to get that far. But there's no pity for 4-stars. And so the 4-star rate up is 50%. Yeah. The 4-star rate up is a flat 50%. It's a coin flip. If you get a 4-star, it's a 50% to be the rate up. However, this changes if it's a split rate up, like we have here. I'm not actually certain the exact numbers, but generally, if there's a split rate up, what this means is now you have a greater chance of getting one of the rate up 4-stars, as opposed to if there was only one 4-star rated up. So I believe it's 60%. So you have a 60% chance of getting one of them, as opposed to a 30% chance of getting if only one of them was rated up. However, the chance of getting an individual one of them. So okay, so say you rolled this banner and you wanted Carmilla, and you didn't care about Osakawa Hime. So now you're only going to have a 30% chance, if you get a 4-star, of it being Carmilla. Carmilla. As opposed to if she was rated up a Lauren, like pre-pity times where she could be, where there would be a rotation where one day she would be the rate up and then the next day Osakawa Hime would be the rate up. That would be a 50% chance. Do you see the issue here? How they've mucked us over? Because now, if there's more than one 4-star on the banner, there's not going to be a rotation anymore ever since pity dropped. So there's always going to be that diluted chance of getting... For example, you mentioned the Okitan Summer banner, and I was going to roll on it on my main originally. And specifically, I was going to roll up for her and Summer Anastasia, because I really like both those servants. But now that it's a split rate up, it's a forced split rate up. There's no point really anymore. because it'd be a nightmare to try to get it, and it's really frustrating. Them giving us pity like a year and a half early basically mucked us over for that length of time of 4-star rate ups, which is a shame. And it's really short-sighted because, frankly, there are plenty of really nice 4-star servants that people really like, but they don't. But they only think about, you know, the big flashy 5-star ones when it came to designing that, and it's a shame. Let's see. Oh yeah, you mentioned Australia. She was my first 5-star, or my first MP5 4-star, rather. That's what I was trying to say. I'm actually pretty sad that I wasn't streaming at the time because I'm not entirely certain anyone would actually believe me if I tell them how rolling for on the because okay. So I got her from the original run of Case Files, which is going to rerun early next year, by the way. And I definitely recommend everyone playing that event because there's some good command codes available. And Gray is a pretty stout welfare who gets a really good. Why do I keep going to that instead of this? Gray, let's go to Assassin. Where is she? There she is. So she's an AoE Buster Assassin. Her upgraded MP makes her Pierce Invuln, which is just... She gets an MP upgrade on the rerun and it makes her Pierce Invuln. And I think it adds some anti-earth damage or something. It adds something else too. Even though just Pierce Invuln and just the damage increase from it being an upgraded MP would have been enough. So yeah, she's actually quite good, and it's not like good damaging assassins grow on trees. It was my first welfare, by the way. This is Yogi Shiki's assassin version. She's got an upgraded MP, which is really nice. I believe she was the first welfare that got buffed. It was her or Chloe. Still one of the best assassins in the game, right there. When I first started playing, yeah, it'll come with time, inevitably. Let's see, right here, this last right here. I have her on every account. MP2 minimum. I have never once rolled on a banner where she's rated up either. I don't know what it is, but she adores spooking me left and right, everywhere. She's far beyond MP5 on this account, really. But she was my first MP5 permanent 4-star servant. All spooks, again, I've never rolled on a banner where she was rated up. She just keeps coming. I'm becoming a bit concerned, to be honest. I wish this one would spook on my quick account a bunch, but I just have her MP1. Lakshmi Bai is really good. She's another one that's overlooked because she's quick and she can't loop. Now see, Theon's a good spook because he's actually outstanding. Now, he takes a lot of investment. You have to max out his skills. He has to be 10-10-10. It is vitally important. But once you do, he's really bloody good. Like, it's weird. There's like 3 4-star AoE Arts Lancers that are just neck and neck with each other. Like, you can just pick one of them and be good to go for AoE Arts Lancer. You can't really go wrong. And that is Lambda Lilith, which is Summer Melt, Summer Melt. Right here. Lambda Lilith here. Also, she also needs her skills ranked up. Yeah, I only have 2 of her, unfortunately. I need to pump that up if I can sometime. So Summer Melt. And then Finn McCool right here. I haven't finished leveling him yet. I only recently got him on this account, so I haven't quite gotten to fully raising him yet. He's like one of the only servants I haven't raised on this account at this point. I'm working on it though, as you can see. It mostly came down to I ran out of QP. QP. So she's going to do the most damage of the 3. And then he has a lot of team support. His damage isn't anything to sneeze at either, because his MP is upgraded. And then the other one is, let's see. Which, come on, load in. No. Huh? Okay, that's advanced. There we go. Percival. Percival, Lambda Lilith, and Finn McCool, as people call him, are basically interchangeable. They're all outstanding servants. So you can basically pick one and be good as gold. They each do something better than the other 2 do, but overall they're again just as good as each other. So yeah, getting a Finn MP3 is quite good actually, because he needs that higher MP levels to do better damage. Because that is one thing he's, even with the upgraded MP, he seems to be lacking a bit, his damage. But I think MP3 is probably fine for him, honestly. Incidentally, these friends lists that I'm showing you here, these other accounts are my alts, so this is my arts account. And still haven't gotten around to actually using her. Shame. Now this one, she's an AoE Arts Lancer, welfare, but she's not being listed among them for a reason. For one, she can't loot like they can. She actually has that really annoyingly designed, she inflicts instant death before damage. So if that procs, there goes all her refunds, because you only get refund from actually making contact with the enemies. So if one of them gets insta-ganked, then there's one less enemy for you to get refund off of. Now, they actually stopped doing this to where they made it inflict instant death after damage. Let's see, Nidocris is like this as well, unfortunately, where she inflicts instant death before damage. But it doesn't hurt her as bad because she has this battery right here that's ludicrous, where it's just instant 100% gauge. So she can, no matter what, MP just twice in a row for you. Oh yeah, I only have MP1 of her on here. She's one of my favorite spooks, and I've never got another copy of her. Sad. Oh, here's VL, by the way. I haven't bothered raising her at all. She's just a lot of healing, and then she gives everyone guts. Lots of healing and guts, and I don't think there's anything much weird. Yeah, it's basically what she does. So Asclepius is definitely better than she is. But he's story-locked, so a lot of people don't have him. Because there's a stigma against rolling against on the story banner, which, as I was mentioning earlier, it's I actually recommend. I'm not the only one. I'm pretty sure Green even recommends on a new account to roll on story a bit, just to get your feet under you a bit, and then start saving for limited servants you might want. Here is she in P? No, she's in P4. You. Right here is my second. No? Huh. I could have sworn he was in P5. Maybe it's a different account. Quick account. Since we were talking about quick earlier. I suppose I can show my Buster account as well. It's quite a bit younger than the arts account and quick account is, so it's not nearly as established, I guess. For one, I don't have the nice big universal farmer on that account that I do on the arts and quick account, because I'm aiming for Mahu Nobu, but I have to wait until her banner comes up, which should be November. So it's still a ways yet before my Buster account can start farming with the done. Speaking of, okay, Leonidas and George. I recommend, I'm not sure if you've raised them at all, but the recommendation from me and anyone else that does any soloing stuff is to keep 2 copies of each of them. Keep one of each at level 1, and then one that's raised. And the same with Chen Gong, who I'm not sure. There's George. See, here's a level 1 copy of George. Now, the reason for that is how you set up. Okay, I don't have Chen Gong over here. The reason for that is how you set up solos. Let's see. Okay, this one was a bit of an awkward one because it was... Okay, basically, so you set up a solo by... There are 3 bronze servants that have taunts. And that is George, Leonidas, and Chen Gong. So basically, you want to put 2 of them... Okay. It depends on if you're using one of your own servants to solo, or if you're using a friend support servant to solo. Hold on, man. This is the craft essence you want on them, by the way, Battle of Kenlan, because when the taunt dies, it will give your soloer some MP charge. Okay, so that was George, right? So where's Leonidas? So yeah, this is basically how you set up a solo. So you just have those 2, and then you grab your support list servant, so Ushi Venger, Heracles, what have you, Kukulane, Saber, Astolfo, Ogita, Varghest, Percival can, yeah, Percival can do it. All sorts of things. Inki do. You get the idea. And then basically you just kill off one taunt per turn, and then solo from there. And this is a good Mystico to go with it, Atlas, because you have Invuln here, and then 2 turns of cooldown there, and then this is a big one, debuff removal. This is just so handy. Outstanding craft essence. Of course, sometimes you just need just really quick burst damage, and you're using a Buster Servant, so you use this. So if you time this right, using only an MP turn, you can survive. Pop off with the crit stars, big damage, and then sometimes you just need a little bit of healing and the attack up, and then the evade. Those are basically your best general use craft essences, or Mystic Codes rather, right there. And of course, you know, if you're farming, this one's the king pretty much. Unless you're arts farming, then you need this one, for depending on the servant. You can get these two from Rare Prism Shop. Not sure if you're aware. And they're certainly recommended. So this gives MP strength for a turn, good for wave 3, boosting your damage. And then MP gain increase. This works well with just the way the batteries and such work with Caster Autoria. And then this one's pretty worthless, but yeah. Oh, I need to switch that back over before I muck something up. And then naturally, if you're going to solo with your own servant, you would like slap George here and then grab something that you want to solo with, like Ushi. No, slap a good craft essence on her. That one will do. And then you would get a support George or a support Leonidas or Chen Gong that's level 1 off the support list. Now, thankfully, well, it really depends on your luck whether somebody has set that up for you or not. Because again, not everyone even knows or understands soloing is a thing, unless they use it to cheese through the story with Heracles. But yeah, that's how you set solos up. They're a lot of fun. Comes to servants gameplay wise, it's definitely obvious where my tastes align gameplay wise. I really like the self-sufficient servants that you can solo with and stuff. Sun Zong's a good one. This is my spare account, come to think of it. This is its support list. Really wonky. Musashi will be right there when I get her up. I actually should have went in and swapped her in even though her skills aren't up. I'll do that in a moment. Jean. Jean's an interesting one. If you have her really kitted out, decent MP level, well, depending on how hard the boss hits, will depend on what level of MP she needs, because her MP scales off, it just increases the defense buff she gives. That's what scales off her MP level. So if you can slap. Oh, I don't have it. You can slap. What am I looking for? There's formal craft. So just 25% odds up. MLB, I think that goes up to 30. I think it goes up to 30%. So you can slap that on her. It's full attack, so it actually helps her attack stat out a bit. And just touch blue, and just spam her MP and touch blue, and she just makes herself basically invincible because her defense will be stacked over the moon. And unless they have, defense pierce, they're not going to be able to scratch her. And then she's going to be healing anyway. And the fight will take forever because her damage is not going to be outstanding. But you can just laugh and cheese the fight that way. There are certain servants you can do that with. But you were mentioning your account wasn't super developed earlier. Well, some of the good things you can do to rectify that is... Okay, let's make sure I'm not missing anything here. There's some really key, you can call them homework servants, that every account really should work on to give themselves a good solid base, and then they can worry about all the golds and such, all the fancy stuff. You said you didn't have Waver or Tomomo. Hopefully you get spooked by them at some point, because they're, contrary to popular belief, they're both still really bloody good. Tomomo in particular, but Waver as well. Alright, for one, I hope you've not been neglecting your mash, because she is extremely important. I don't think a lot of people realized how important until they get to the Lost Belts, and then you have to use that horrid Lost Belt version mash that just gimps her kit terribly. And it's like, no, I want the old eggplant back. But particularly her second skill, it's really important to max that just to have a targetable 20% battery. Targetable batteries don't exactly grow on trees on new accounts. And of course the Inborn is invaluable as well. So work on mash. Let's see. But if you're in Lost Belt, if you've cleared Lost Belt 6, so you have Habitrot, then you don't need my advice here. You've gotten far enough. Ushi is invaluable to raise. She's incredibly strong. I mean, she gives MP gain up for the team, she gives attack up for the team, she gives quick up for herself, she Starbomb, she has an evade, she does ludicrous damage with her upgraded MP, and she's going to be guaranteed MP5. Plus, her animation update was really nice, and she has an outstanding outfit too. A little costume, I really like it. Her animation update was really nice. She did look like an albino goblin earlier. Before it was something. While you were playing, you probably saw. It's really, really stout. It should go without saying, but if you have Heracles, I haven't had him long on this account, that's why he has bonded up. Rush bond 10 him as quickly as you can, and a lot of your boss fight issues are over, because you can just slap him at the back line, and then everyone else, by the time everyone else dies, he can typically clean up the rest for the overwhelming majority of boss fights in the game. Oh, BB's important because she can remove debuffs and remove invuln from the enemies. And everyone can get her because she's her event is in the Rare Prism shop, which will be free starting I want to say around Marchish. A little bit into next year, there will be an event which makes Hair Event free permanently. So, here we go. So, Uriel. A lot of people would say, oh yeah, rush level hair. No, if you're going to level one of the single target archers, level Robin Hood. Because Robin Hood gets his bonus damage against anyone, male or female, regardless, and he doesn't require the ability to charm them. You just need to be able to poison them. Which there are cases where they're immune to debuffs. But being immune to debuffs completely is a lot, significantly rarer than finding a male Saber boss that is also vulnerable to charm. Saber or Berserker boss that is vulnerable to charm. And then again, you have if his skill doesn't work, you have the backup of any command card that can poison. And there are quite a few of them, and I'm pretty sure there's one in either the Rare Prism or Mana Prism shop as well. So, see if I can even remember which one's poison. This one poisons. I think this is the one that's in the shop. So that one poisons. I think this poisons. Yeah, that poisons. One of these do. Not this one. There's another one that looks similar to it. It poisons. This poisons. Maybe this one's the one that's in the shop. This curses, yeah. Yeah, so there's, I believe, 3 of them. And I'm fairly certain one of them is in the shop. So you have easy access to poison for him. And he does really good damage against poisoned enemies. And then even better than them is David. David's second skill. Raise that puppy. That AoE one hit of evade that lasts until it gets ticked off is really great. It will save you from so many MPs. He is highly underrated with the support he gives. He gives a solid attacker, and then a little bit of healing, and that one hit of evade, protecting the entire team from MPs. And then he himself's just pretty stubborn too, because he can give himself a defense up for a turn and heal quite a bit of HP if you level that. And damage-wise, he has the highest damage of any 3-star archer, the highest attack rather. And his MP's upgraded, so it does great damage. It's Buster instead of Arts, so it does more damage than Arts does with the similar buffs. It has Sure Hit, and if it's a giant enemy, he does bonus damage. And then the skill seal is a bit hit or miss, because often that is worse than not skill sealing them at all. Because often you want them to waste their actions on buffing themselves instead of with skills instead of attacking. But yeah, David is one of the absolute best ones that you can level. And Bedivere is a good one as well. Bedivere or Caesar for a single target. Saber. You can't really go wrong with either of them. Naturally, Bedivere is story locked, so you might only have the MP1 copy of him. Arash is good for farming, of course. Kukulane is one of the absolute best servants in the entire game. Just slap some grails on him, and there's the list of 5-star servants that can outperform him Enkidu. Is one. Maybe Ushivenger. Like, the list is very short. He is incredible. He does a load of damage. So his attack may seem lower here because he's at level 70. But remember, he's a Lancer, so he has 10% more attack than what this says he has. He also gets an attack buff from his guts. Protection from arrows, and this is the unnerfed version of protection from arrows, which means these evade stacks will not go away until the enemy actually ticks them off with attacks. And it's got a super low cooldown. Rush level this to 10. It's really important. And then he cleanses debuffs, restores HP, he's got his guts, his super defensive kit, and then he's quick, so his MP does more damage than Buster or Arts would. And he's got really solid attack, and he's Lancer, so he has even more attack than you'd think. And then all of his A-pins are outstanding. Anti-Berserker is just... You just melt Berserkers with that. And then extra attack boost is outstanding because you're going to use him in lots of solo situations. And then his MP is even upgraded, so it does even more damage. Has Sure Hit, has Insta-Kill, lowers defense. Just... can't say enough great things about him. And honestly, even Protoku, now that he's got his MP upgraded, is not too far behind him. So you could even throw both of them into the same team and they just be ludicrously difficult to kill. He's also got the unnerfed version of protection from arrows. Basically what I mean by that is, in the future they start putting a turn limit on this, usually 3 turns, or making it 2 hits instead of 3. That's what they often did. And of course Caster-Ku is also really good, but he's story locked, so it depends on if you want a real story banner or not. Ricky's a good one to raise. Alexander's good to raise because of the aforementioned buff removal. It's really important to have that. Sclepius, if you can get him. Medea, despite her gimped MP damage. So, if you've ever used Medea and you wonder, why is she doing such terrible damage? It's because they were afraid, when they designed her, they were scared of her battery. Because this is basically, when it's ranked up, it's basically instant Noble Phantasm, even from 0. And they were afraid of that. They're like, oh no, we don't want to give somebody the chance to use their MP too many times in a row. So much for that. So what they did was, they did this to Vlad as well, Berserker Vlad as well, where they significantly gimped the damage of the MP by giving it AoE scaling despite it being a single target MP. And they've still yet to fix it. And they really should. Because one of the things 1 to 3 star needs is a single target damage dealing caster. And she's all that there is. And she doesn't do any damage. They finally fixed Vlad, by the way. They gave him a second MP upgrade, which adjusted and gave it proper scaling for a single target MP. So now Vlad is really bloody good. From all the buffs they've given him, but they've still neglected poor Medea. However, she's still really useful because she removes buffs from the enemy. And targeted buff removal can be really useful. Now here's one that people super overlook. Besides Green and others that, like his mates basically. Pretty much no one mentions Asuka here. She is another just outstanding servant. She does a lot of damage. She's great at solos. You know, she's another one that you really need to level her skills though. Especially the second one, because this is chance based. Basically, she gives herself she has an 80%, when it's at 10, she has an 80% chance to give her an arts up, 80% for a buster up, and 80% for a quick up. And naturally, you want the best chance you can get, which is why that needs to be a 10. And of course, with do I have the command code on? I do. With this command code right here, which is really important, the little mask, that gives you a boosted 20% chance of proccing effects. So that makes it 100% if you can hit that beforehand. But even the 80% is generally good enough, because you mainly just want the arts up. So she gives herself MP gain here, star drop rate as well. Gives herself, I think it's 30% apiece at level 10. So that's solid damage. Now, this one's one people, oh, she's terrible because she removes her own buffs. Well, here's the thing. Not only is this card type up, but it's also an evade. So there's one turn she's not taking damage. And then short cooldowns. 5 turns. Remember what Atlas does, that's 2 turns off if you're soloing with her. And this is a very substantial heal. Like, it's a chunky one. Typically, as someone that's played with her a lot, and Green and others will back this up as well, they played with her even more than I have. The way her kit is actually really well designed, probably by accident, because generally the way the cooldowns work is by the time these effects wear off, which is 3 turns, basically by the time she might need to heal, her buffs are going to wear off anyway. So then you can pop this, then pop Atlas, and then these will probably be back up, and then this will just, and then again by the time you need to heal again, this will be back up. So she can just last for a while. And what helps with that is her MP, which is upgraded, so it does really good damage, is she decreases the critical rate of the enemy. And this stacks every time she uses her MP. And she's arts, so she's got her fair skill up, she's got an arts up, she's MP, arts. She's pretty much looping by herself. So she does good damage, she decreases crit rate. Each hit of this decreases their crit rate by 50%. You hit them with their SMP twice, they can't crit anymore. That is incredible for a boss fight, because besides Noble Phantasms, which are the obvious, the thing that kills people the most in boss fights are random, really beefed up crits. But she just says, no, you can't crit. And that just adds so much survivability, it's actually laughable. Furthermore, her damage ramps up because she gives arts card resistance down to the enemy she hits. So basically, her MPs are consecutively going to do more and more damage, and just give her even more and more refund because they're taking more damage from arts. She's outstanding, and just again, she's another one that's really important to raise. Leonidas, George, and Chen Gong. Very important to raise them. Shakespeare used to be vital to raise, and I'd still recommend raising him because he's got a targetable 20% battery. But for Buster support wise, Chen Gong's pretty much overshadowed him. But again, it's a targetable 20% battery that you don't have to raise because it doesn't scale. Only the star drop rate increase scales from the levels. So you only have to level his fair skill. Hans works for all card types. You said you don't have waiver. Well, here's basically your budget waiver, Hans. He's even going to get another buff in the future that he got recently in JP that's really strong as well. He just MP regen, HP regen, attack up, defense up, all sorts of good things. Star gen. He's like Waiver and Maryland combined, sort of, as a 2-star. Really valuable. In fact, some people even throw grails on him to make him a few grails. They don't like grail him all the way to 100 unless they really like him. But just a bit, just to increase his HP a bit, so he'll stick around a bit longer. Just because he's really, really useful support-wise. Basically, you can slap him and Mash on a team, and then a DPS, And there's your stall boss fight comp for early FGR. They can last a while, and they can really go the distance in some really tough boss fights. Let's see. Mozart. Now Mozart's an art support, but his third skill, if it's at 10, which is easily doable. I mean, he's a 1-star. He basically has really low mat costs for 1-star servants. If this is at 10, that's 50 crit stars. That means every card is guaranteed to crit for 110. That's really powerful. Then the 110 of arts up. If it's an arts DPS, that's really good. Then this can be helpful as well. He's just really good support. And while he's predominantly arts, thanks to the crit star bomb he has, he can work for any card type. Badahari is slept on. She is pretty handy because she has a charm. She decreases defense for male enemies. She increases crit strength, star drop. She's basically a crit support. Skill seal, lower defense. Basically, she lowers the defense of the enemy quite a bit. And then here, another charm chance, lowered their attack, and greatly decreased their defense. So basically, during certain fights, she makes them hit less and take a great deal more damage because she has 3 sources of defense down for the enemies. She's really slept on. She can provide quite a bit of support. Now, here's another really good single target assassin for you to raise. The Regent himself, Sasuke Kojiro. He's similar to Asako, just really strong. Ultimately, I think she's better than him, but he's really good. He's like almost an assassin version of Ushi. He's got a 1-turn evade. He's got a debuff cleanse here. He lowers quick card resist on the enemies. Star bomb, sure hits. Just good stuff all around. Quick up for himself. Now here's one. Similar to Matahari, there are certain boss fights that Asterios, now this isn't a priority to raise, but there are certain boss fights where if you can pop his MP off a couple times before he dies, if he dies, then it basically makes the enemy boss being unable to do anything, because it lowers their attack and their defense. Significantly. And naturally it stacks. So if you can pop this MP off a couple times, because again, the initial attack and defense decrease last 6 turns each. That's plenty of time to keep stacking it. And during the initial turn, they get a massive decrease as well. Now that's not stackable, but that's still significant. So as a berserker, he becomes quite survivable if he can do that a couple times. And I believe that about sums up. So yeah, David, Robin, George, Leonidas, Shenggong, Mozart, Kukulane, Ushi, Medea, Asako, and Hans are pretty much your highest priorities to raise of the lower star stuff. And then after you get done with that, you can, if you want, you can try Matahari and Asterios. And if you need farming, Spartacus and Arash were everyone's beloved farmers for like a couple of years to begin with. Oh, incidentally, his... I suppose he is usable, but... where is he? Ah, there he is. Blackbeard here. Now, depending on... I mean, he's an AoE buster rider. He is usable. He's just, gameplay-wise, he's not spectacular, even after his buffs. However, one thing you can do is ascend him. I think he only needs to be ascended once, and then get him to like Bond 3. Basically, you need to unlock his interlude, because now this is less of a priority nowadays, I suppose, because of Pure Prisms. But early game, you're often really dire straits when it comes to pages to level, because all these casters that you need to raise up need pages. And you can't even farm the bloody things until you get to London. But his interlude drops just a big stack of pages. So it's a way to cheese and get a good chunk of them early for ascending him once and getting into like Bond 3, which takes nothing, and doing his interlude. I'd recommend doing that if you're in need of pages. There are a couple other little interludes like that too, but his is probably the most pressing that I can... It's the only one I can think of at the moment, off the top of my head. That is not what I wanted to do. Don't think I ever showed quick account. It's the one I typically stream with, gameplay-wise. Although, I did not stream going through Lost Belt 6. Now, I did that for a reason. For one, it is... So gameplay-wise, it's not as tedious as something like any of the Lost Belts is better gameplay-wise than the tedium that is the initial few singularities leading up to Camelot. You know, just cannon fodder fights left and right. And then, after that, it's basically Atlantis. I wasn't a fan of Atlantis because it's kind of back to that kind of thing, where it's just tedious cannon fodder fights for the most part, but because of the gimmick, everything has inflated HP and defense, so it just takes that much longer to kill. Not a fan of that stuff. And there are just quite a few fights of them. This is not quite as bad as Atlantis. However, there's an addition of 4 story supports, where nearly every fight they force at least 1 story support on you, and you have to remake your team from scratch every bloody fight. And it just becomes really tedious and not something really enjoyable to watch, frankly. And it's a shame because there are a couple really good boss fights there. But I ultimately decided it wasn't worth the tedium of trudging through on stream, putting anyone that was unlucky enough to watch through watching me rebuild my team every bloody fight. I'm really not a fan of the force story support that they've been throwing at us. Like, it's understandable. So, I do understand why. It is immersive for the story. It makes sense story-wise. However, people are out here throwing their wallet at the screen to get all their favorite servants, and then you go and play a new story event, and then you can't even bloody use them because you're filling up your roster with force supports. So it's just quite frustrating. Now a lot of that would be assuaged if they would add story replay, but that's a rant I've went on many a time. Have I shared this already? Should have some deja vu. Incidentally, speaking of Karen, the way she works and the way she loops, it is vitally important that both Scotties that she has with her have their second A pin unlocked and at 10, because she drains 10% gauge from each of them each turn. So she'll do this for 2 turns. She'll do this on turn 2, she'll do it on turn 3. So it is vital that they have 20% starting. That way you don't have to worry about giving them like starting MP gauge, craft essence, or something like that. Or lucking out and hitting a couple odds cards with each of them to get enough gauge for her to for Karen to properly refund. So for any of you out there with Scotties, please, oh please, do everyone a favor. You kind, generous soul, you. And get your second A pin up to 10. Anyone can do it. If you have Scotty, you can do it. Because again, you get 90 coins just for getting a 5-star. So by the time they're at Bond, I believe Bond 5 will do it. Something around there, 5, maybe 6. Then you can get an A pin. It's really not that bad. And her mats, from what I remember, are not terrible either, so do please do that for we poor Karen enjoyers. Spooked by Tamamo on that account. And then have to ticket Tamamo on my arts account because I rolled for her twice and couldn't get her. Bloody hell. What a disaster that was. I could have sworn I leveled you. I should get to that, I suppose. Tomacat on my main was my initial starter, by the way. So she's quite nostalgic for me. She was my starter servant. The first servant I ever rolled was Ushi. Ushi and Tomacat were the only servants I got on my starter rolls. And then I didn't get any craft essences that were useful either. It was pretty bad. And then I did not have another gold servant until I got Shiki. Basically, I wasn't at the time. I was just saving up. I just refused to roll any Saint Quartz at all. So I did not roll for the first few months I played the game. I just saved up, and then I rolled for Sam and Mordred. And I rolled until I got an MP3 and I stopped. Even though I still had plenty of rolls left. Thankfully she's finally getting more raid ups, so I should be able to hopefully snipe a couple more copies to get her on up to MP5. But yeah, it was basically Tomacat and Ushi were all I had all the way up until London. They and Mash were my only leveled servants, because I was having terrible luck with friend support or friend point rolls. For one, obviously no one was friending me, no one was using any of my characters. So I had the daily free 10 roll and that was it. And all those servants that I mentioned that were really important to build up, I didn't get Robin Hood until I was in Camelot. I didn't get Uriel until I had cleared Solomon. I didn't get Cuchulainn until I was midway through Babylonia. I got one copy of Hans, and the thing with Hans is it's important to get him MP5 because it helps the chances of his things actually proccing. So it's vital to get him at MP5. He's unfortunately not really spectacular at MP1, which is what I had him until I was somewhere in Anastasia Lost Spell. I didn't have David until I got a copy of him from Okeanos. And then, so basically I cleared Okeanos, I got David, but I didn't raise him just yet because I had hit London and I got far enough in London to where Mash basically ascended again. And then the events started hitting. So I got Shiki, and she was my first little lady, thanks to the mats in the event. Because at the time, not only were Ushi and Tomacat the only servants besides Mash that I had, neither of them were able to fully ascend because we didn't have a pure prism shop back then. We didn't have the bonus mats you get as you clear through the story nodes. You know, like, oh, you clear a so-and-so story node, you get, you know, a Saint Quartz and 5 Ghost Lanterns. That was the big one. Ghost Lanterns, because I needed those for Ascension and stuff. So I needed to farm Okeanos. Luckily, the Shiki event had Ghost Lanterns, so I was able to... That event was invaluable for me because it allowed me to finally ascend Ushi. She couldn't get final ascended. She was still... I think it was Horseshoes that I was missing out on. So it still took a bit before I got enough of those to max ascend her, so she could get her MP upgraded and get her 3rd skill. And then Tomacat, I believe it was Talons, and it wasn't until I was going through America I got enough of those. It was a mess. And then I raised David up, so he was my next one after Shiki. And then I finally got my first copy of George. So that was handy. Unfortunately, at that point, and this is partially why I've started so many AltaCats, there was an event coming up that needed a certain amount of story completion. I think it was the Gouda Gouda. Yeah, it was the Gouda Gouda event that dropped. Yoma, and you weren't allowed to. The event was locked behind Solomon completion, so you had to beat the entire first part of the story to be able to even do the event. So I had to rush, and the only way to rush, with the way my account was at the time, was to cheese it with Heracles. So unfortunately, I cheesed. So I did that to get far enough to where I wouldn't miss out on the event. So soloing with the servant's a good way to learn more about the servant, but using like a charged up Heracles like that with his Bonsi doesn't quite teach you a lot, just because of how nutty his soloing shenanigans are. Because there's not really a lot to learn there. It's at the time we didn't have A-pins and he didn't have his buff on his third skill, so it was basically get him alone, pop his evade, on a turn, pop his attack up, press all the red buttons, and then, oh, now he got a guts popped, now he got another one popped, now he got his third one popped, now use the other guts. And then, of course, the craft with the Mystic Guard, you have either, if you're using the... I was still using the generic Mystic Guard at the time, so there was an evade there was a heal, and there was an attack up on it. Not a lot of things to learn there, except the fact that he actually... okay, as he was back then, again, pre-third skill buff, pre-A-pinned, pre-super grails and nonsense. Maybe even pre-gold foes back then, come to think of it. He actually does struggle a bit in certain fights in late Babylonia because of the damaging wave will basically proc an extra tick of guts off each turn. So that was a bit hairy at times. But alright, I'm not sure if you're still around, but do you have any questions in particular? If so, because if not, suppose I should probably wrap up the stream. But now, how many rolls do we have on this account? Not many. What about tickets? 25. Again, not many. Okay, seems no questions, so I reckon that'll just about do it for this stream, so next FGO stream would probably be the Clyde on Off rolls on the Quick account. Hopefully it would be a short stream and I just get lucky and get it pretty quickly, because I only need one copy of her. I don't have to do any of this nonsense with, oh no, I need to get it like MP4 or some nonsense. Ditto for Dorman, but she's my priority over him. So yeah, for FGO, that would probably be the next time I do anything worth streaming. As for streams in general, I might... Actually, let me think a moment. I think there's an upcoming Blue Archive banner I might need to roll on. That may be like a month away though. I wouldn't swear to it. Anyway, I'm kind of thinking about doing another playthrough of Dragon's Dogma at some point. If I can get things sorted out. So I may do that. But yeah, I reckon that'll wrap up this stream. We successfully got Samu Musashi and a Spook of Aussie, who naturally we will raise on that account. A shame the Buster account can't get him, because that's the account he belongs on, honestly. But again, Halloween event will take care of single target Buster Rider. Although he is better. Do not mistake me, he is better. But she's also really good, so can't go wrong with either of them. Or both of them. But enough jibber jabber. Let's wrap this up. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time.